All right, here we go, guys. Hey, folks, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Photo. I'm your host, Frederick Van Johnson. I've got two of my good buddies here to chat about the stories that we all think you should be aware of this week. There's Mr. Martin Bailey from the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast and Jose Rosado, the angry millennial. Hey, guys.
Hey, Frederick. Hey, Jose.
That is just a cool
What's
name,
going on,
man.
man?
Jose, that is just a cool name. The angry millennial. It's just,
Yeah. I
Are
had
you
to make
more
it
angry
memorable.
now? Are you more angry now? Or are you still as
Oh, yeah.
angry? Are you more angry now in December of 2016 as you were in January of 2016?
So I was talking to Martin about it earlier. We have two kids, an 11-year-old boy and a 9-year-old daughter, and we've been lucky. They've never asked for that It toy every year, and we got away with it all this time. And I guess we were due because now my daughter wants a Hatchimals. You probably never heard of it.
Yeah, those are those toys that you have to nurture and they actually pop out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do know. Yeah, it's like a Furby in a shell.
It's a Furby in utero.
Pretty much. The dumbest looking thing. And I mean, I say that with love, but I don't understand it. And yeah, so we're doing the whole staying in line at 3 a.m., waiting. We're getting told they're sold out, calling places, people laughing at you, being like, "Yeah, okay, buddy. Yeah, we don't even know when those come in." Yeah.
Would you like a moon rock at the same time? Or?
it's literally just to make myself feel better. We're watching Christmas movies upstairs before I hopped on, and we watched the one, not Deck the Halls. It was the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he basically goes through the same thing, the Turbo Man doll. And it's Christmas Eve, and he's running around with Sinbad trying to find it. And it's, yeah. So
you're basically saying this Christmas season has you more angry than you normally are, is what you're saying.
Look, more grays, too.
Oh, yeah.
I'm starting to look like Zach Arias over here.
I know. That's cool. That's a good look. I don't know if you can rock that, though. He's got a trademark.
Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah, for sure. That's why I'll keep the whole beard. I think that's the only thing that keeps me from infringing on his IP. He's got that nice goatee.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Well, cool. Welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you on.
Thanks. Glad to be back on.
And Martin Bailey, man, what's going on with you? I know you got new toys that you're going to share over there. I'm jealous. What's happening?
Yeah. Yeah. I've over the last week, I've been setting up my new 13-inch MacBook Pro with the Touch Bar, and
I hate you.
Yeah, I'm actually just playing around with stuff and trying to get a few extra podcasts in the feed because I'm going to be traveling again soon. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've something exciting. I've got five, like the head of the large format printer department in Canon, and 4 engineers coming over on Friday. So I'm preparing a presentation for those guys as well. Nice. It's not here now. You remember I used to have the large format printer behind me.
Yeah. Well, you replaced it with a keyboard.
Well, that's because the new large format printer has to sit on the second floor. Our apartment is the second and third floor of a 3-story building, and it's so big. The new printer is so big. I had to have it installed on the second floor. That's why my keyboards are up here now. But yeah, in this printer, they've actually fixed a whole slew of things that I told them about 5 years ago when they did something similar. They came over, they sort of interviewed me about what I liked about the printer, what I didn't like about it. Yeah. And a lot of that found its way into the new Pro series, the ImageGraph Pro 2000, 4000. And now, they called a few weeks ago and asked if they could come over again. So I'm putting together a presentation to tell them what I love about the new printer, and thank them for fixing all of the things that I didn't like about the old one. But also there's a few things. There's not a lot that I can tell them this time that I really don't like about the new printers, because they just made such a good job of it. But it's nice to talk to these guys, though.
A printer is serious when they have to, quote, install it. It's like most of us, Martin, just so that you know, most of us mortals, we buy a printer and we set it up. Martin has his printers installed.
Well, it took 4 people. Yeah. It took 4 people to carry it up the stairs. Wow. It weighs, I think it's 100 with the stand, which is a part of the it's a 44-inch wide roll printer. So this thing can make like huge photographs. And it's with the stand, I think it weighs about 127 kilos.
You're
So
not moving that.
it's
You're
a
not
decent
moving
size,
that.
right?
Yeah, please tell me the stand at least has wheels on it in case you want to like move it a foot
It
to the left.
But I also built a platform to sort of spread out, distribute the weight so it doesn't drop through to the first floor.
And Martin, I know Japanese apartments aren't all that big, so I'm guessing that printer probably needs to start paying rent, right?
Well, it's not the most popular item with my wife because it's sitting in our room. We actually, because when I moved to this place, I moved here because I was setting up my new company. I was going to incorporate Martin Bailey Photography, and so we did rent somewhere that was large enough to have like 40% of the area as business. This room up here is just for my business. So we have room to do that stuff, but our spare room downstairs is no longer that spare. It's like you can just about fit a bed next to it now if necessary.
Yeah, you're gonna have another area set aside for your roll paper and ink and all that stuff.
Yeah, and the
Martin Bailey Service Bureau.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, cool. Well, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have both of you guys in.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm looking at my Canon Pro 9. Was it 9000? I need glasses. Mark II. Looking at it like it's some redheaded stepchild now.
Yeah. I have an older
Martin story. I'm like, yeah.
I have an older Epson, and I haven't used it. I feel so bad saying this in front of Martin. I haven't used it in so long. I actually decommissioned it and put it in a box because my printer is Bay Photo. So I send everything to Bay Photo, and it shows up a day later. But granted, I can't make those beautiful prints that Martin makes, one of a kinds and all that stuff. So yeah, so much stuff. There's so much stuff to buy. All right, guys, let's dive in. Speaking of stuff to buy, there's a calendar on sale. So the 2017, that was my veiled attempt at a segue. The 2017 Pirelli calendar is out, and it's kind of stirring things up. So the idea, one of the gists behind this calendar was they decided, or the German photographer Peter Lindbergh decided that he wanted to capture beauty unretouched. The calendar is titled Emotional, and it's a black and white series for the Pirelli calendar. And it's celebrating, quote, women beyond glitz. He says, quote, I want to portray women not in terms of their perfection, but through their feelings and emotions. So what do you guys think, Jose? Jose, what do you think about that?
So I remember, like, I'm a big car guy. I remember the first time I heard this, I was like, Pirelli, like the tire company, like, and I remember being like, huh. And I thought at first when I saw it, I thought it was one of those like, Asian car model type kind of calendars. And I was like, oh, this is pretty neat. And but you said it, it's capturing the natural beauty of, from my understanding of it, the older celebrities. And it's like, come on, you know what I mean? Like the people we're talking about are obviously the, upper 1% of beautiful people in the world.
They're already beautiful. You already have a head start,
Yeah.
Or Sorry, my opinions on that is I was talking to Tim Engel, who's been on the show before. He's a fashion photographer up in Sacramento, California. And we were going back and forth on chat talking about this very story. And I wanted to get his perspective as a fashion photographer on, makeup or no makeup and or distorted perceptions of beauty. And is makeup doing that to people or women and giving an unrealistic expectation? And, it's kind of like the conversations we have on TWiP about photojournalism versus art. It's like if you're trying to portray something as beautiful and it's not necessarily reality, or if it just makes a person feel better, why not? I'm trying to get my brain around this unrealistic perception of reality, because I was telling Tim, it kind of, when I hear that, like, most women I know are smarter than most men I know, right? So it's like,
But
it's
wait,
like,
let me just say that's all women for me.
thank you. Well, yeah,
All
you don't want to generalize or anything, but I'm saying, like, saying that their perceptions are being skewed by these photographs and their I'm like, it just feels like you're condescending to these people that are smart. They know what makeup is and what non-makeup is, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, to me, it's not exactly like we're talking about the Dove campaign.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, this is way different. And even that was, what, I don't even know, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
born.
So that started the conversation a while ago. And it's like, to think this is some new thing. Oh, wait, but it's, the beauty of older celebrities. I don't know.
Right. Well, there's the other side of that, as you brought it up before we started recording, is the whole, there's Photoshop, right? And then there's Photoshop work, and then there's, let's call it nip tuck work, right? So the unrealistic expectation, you could go makeup free, but you've already, A, you've got DNA, and B, you've augmented from the inside out, but you don't put makeup on the outside. So you're saying this is a realistic portrayal of lack of makeup. Martin, what do you think of it?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, they're not actually saying that there isn't any makeup. It's the Photoshop. A lot of these subjects do have some makeup on. It's light for sure, but I like the photos. I think they're great, as for what they are. But like you say, I mean, people generally know that when they see a photo and they've got perfect skin, it's been retouched and all of that. Yeah. So I understand your point about it being a little bit condescending to women that are generally a lot more intelligent than we are. So I just think that, there's a certain amount of gimmick sort of element to it, but I like it. I like the work. I think the article.
Let the work stand on its own. Why does it have to be a controversy? And
Yeah.
So you decided to shoot this group of women. Calendars? I just decided to shoot. Yeah, exactly. I decided to shoot this group of women like this. It's not saying it's right or wrong. I just decided to do that for this series. Why does it have to be a big controversy?
I think a part of it though is the where is it on the Bored Panda website? A part of it is the way they're hyping it, because they're saying older celebrities, but Lupita Nyong'o, however you pronounce that, she's like in her 30s, and so the photo of her is pretty. I mean, almost looks retouched to a degree because she's got the youth on her side. I don't know. I mean, I think it's one of those things that I can go either way. I understand the points that you guys are making. The photographs themselves, they stand to me just as pieces of art, and I quite like the work. And I think that a certain amount of the hype is coming from the Bored Panda website more than the. Although, if you watch the video at the bottom of the post, the photographers and the models are all, the actresses are all talking and just giving a quick comment about how they feel about the project. And I think that that's more in line with the intentions of the photographer. So I would recommend people actually listen to the video or watch the video as well. And that's obviously, that's part of what this whole thing is. It's going to create more visits to the Bored Panda website. It's going to create more eyes on the video, but that's fine. I mean, I enjoyed watching the video. I enjoyed looking at the photos. To me, that's about as far as it goes. I don't need to overthink the rest of it.
Yeah.
Wait, can we just say real quick, can we talk about how Helen Mirren is still a fox?
Yeah, look at her.
I mean, she's got my vote.
Yeah, I mean, all these women are, Yeah. Look at that.
But that's like you were saying, Jose and Frederick. They're probably like in the top 1% of beautiful women on the planet to begin with.
Right.
So.
I mean, you can't throw a Penelope Cruz in here, and come on, dude. like, where is that photo? Where is it? Yeah, there she is. I mean, it's Penelope Cruz. She's probably gonna look great when she's 90. I mean, she's
who's the one from the? She always reminds me of the Italian actress from the '60s. Sofia Vergara, right? No, that's the new one. Sophia Loren. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
was a model turned actress, and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean, she's still gorgeous. Oh, I don't know now. Last time I saw her was probably grumpier old man. I don't. I'm trying to think. She was still a fox then too.
Yeah. Hey, I love this new, especially as I get older, that the perception of beauty is not necessarily the realm of the youth anymore, right? The spectrum is larger, it's wider of what we consider beautiful. And I think, like you were saying, Martin, I think the photographer did a fantastic job. The body of work is awesome. I just have to call into question that whole unrealistic expectation or perceptions of beauty thing that people throw on.
That's hype.
Yeah, it is hype. Yep. All right, guys, let's take a quick break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about Microsoft and how some photographers are jumping ship from Apple for the big M. All right, guys, we are back. So Microsoft, this is a story that Bruce put in here from Blair Bunting Photography. So Blair Bunting, he wrote a post listing essentially 7 reasons why creatives might find themselves jumping from Apple to Microsoft. And on a recent episode of TWiP, I kind of hinted in that direction. I'm not moving, but looking at their new Surface Pro computer all-in-one, their iMac kind of entrant. That thing is beautiful. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. It is a beautiful computer. Not that I would use it. I was actually in the mall earlier today, and I went in the Microsoft store, and I don't see me using a stylus. I mean, I'm not that. Maybe Renee Robin or those kind of ilk of artists that do that compositing stuff might do that. But I have an iPad Pro and the pencil, and I can count on one pencil how many times I've used the pencil.
Well, that's the case. I might have to pick that up off your hands.
There you go.
For the holidays, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. And but it's interesting. And Martin, I want to start with you because I know you just made a purchase, so you're firmly. And we're all for the most part, Jose, I think you're in that Apple camp too, right? But we're all firmly. Yeah. And I want to preface this with, like, I would consider myself. I don't know if I consider myself a fanboy, but I'm definitely marinating in the Kool-Aid because I have iMac, I have Apple TVs here, I've got the phone, I've got tablets. I mean, I'm in the ecosystem. I'm using Apple Music, I buy movies on iTunes, so I'm in the ecosystem. It would be more painful for me to switch to another system, no matter how awesome it was right now, because of the glue, and that the glue is the software is the apps and the software and the content. But Martin, you just bought a new toy over there, so I'm guessing you're not planning on jumping to Microsoft anytime soon, right?
No. I read through the article. Does anyone know if Blair's a guy or a gal?
I don't know.
I don't know. So
I thought Blair was a guy, but it is a very unisex name.
Yeah,
it's unisex.
So either way, Blair sort of streams out a load of things that I don't necessarily disagree with, but I haven't tried. He or she talks about 100 megapixel files on Apple laptops. I haven't tried to edit 100 megapixel files, so I can't state anything from experience, but I use 50 megapixel files all the time, and they display in less than a second, and I can edit them without any problems. So for me, the MacBook Pros that I've not replaced it. I've just bought a 13-inch MacBook Pro, but my 3-year-old MacBook Pro, the 15-inch, it still works perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And one of the arguments that Blair talks about is how they become slower with each revision of the Mac OS. And I think that's only the case if you really scrimp on the specs. Yeah. And I max the specs out every time. It makes them really expensive for sure, but if you buy a beefy enough machine, then you get many years out of these things. And so I think that there's a certain amount of emotion behind Blair's decided that he or she's gonna move to the Windows camp, and he's just trying to find reasons for that.
Yeah,
And I think that it honestly, whether you want to use Apple or Microsoft or Canon or Nikon or Sony, it's the same argument. You can do what we want to do with all of these tools, and it's just a personal preference.
These days it is. It used to be. It used to be that Apple was, or the Apple Mac OS was more stable and less prone to viruses. And back in the day, in the old days on Windows, you'd have to over time, your whatever file would get corrupted, and you'd have to defrag your hard drive and all this other crazy stuff just to keep. You had to do maintenance just to keep your machine going and working faster. Those days are gone for the most part. I think we're on parity now with, depending on the perspective that you look at the operating system, some things on Microsoft are better than on Apple and vice versa. So like you said, Martin, it's a matter these days. It's a matter of personal taste, and I think you hit it right on the head with this article. I think Blair, he or she, might be self-justifying. He's a guy. Okay, so Blair, he's maybe self-justifying his desire to move, or Blair may be trying to convince his wife that he did the right thing by spending all that money.
That's what's behind a lot of gear arguments. It's emotion.
Why?
No.
Oh, I thought you were just explaining it to your wife.
No. A lot of my audience just blame me. They always say Martin Bailey said that I need this. So, but I think that the thing is people generally they need something, or they've bought something and they're not totally happy with what they've got, and they need to sort of figure it. It's almost like an ego bolstering sort of thing, that if I'm going to tell you that your gear is crap so that it makes me feel better about mine, which I'm not totally happy with. But you know what? I'm totally happy with the gear that I use, both the computers and the cameras. And so I don't feel the need to go out and tell everyone else what they need.
You know what I call that? You know what I call it, Martin? It's digital Stockholm syndrome. That's what it is. It's digital Stockholm syndrome. You buy into some gear where there is Nikon, Canon, Panasonic, Fuji, Sony, whatever, Mac, Windows, whatever, and suddenly it's the best thing in the world. My brother has that affliction in spades. Whatever he has is the best thing ever, and whatever you have is crap. Right? So, it's like that, and that's how photographers are. You have to justify what you own. I shoot Panasonic, therefore, hey, mirrorless is better than everything. You're right. And once you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So of course, Jose, what do you think about this? You think photographers are migrating en masse to the Windows platform?
Nah, I think it's the same kind of trite argument we have all the time, right? Like you said it's Nikon, Canon. It's always something. DSLR, mirrorless. It's right. It's always something. And you mentioned something earlier about how you don't use the stylus as much. And what's interesting is my first laptop, I remember, was an HP. I forget what the model was, but it was one of the first ones that the screen flipped around and folded over, and you could turn it into a tablet.
Yeah.
And it had a stylus that came out near the keyboard, and I was like, oh. Now my girlfriend at the time, she was an artist, and she would use it sometimes, but like you said, I'd never really used it because I didn't like drawing on the surface. It was weird. But as I got older, I got to Wacom, and I like that, how the fact that it was separated, right? It's like my hand's down here, but I'm looking right here at the screen.
You like that? Yeah, okay.
I never could get into the Cintiqs and all those kind of stuff, so I just want to throw it out there. But and actually that was the last time I think I owned a Mac or an Apple, a PC, was probably in 2004, around there. Yeah. So like you said, I remember those crappy days. I remembered formatting my hard drive at least 3 times a year, and I didn't have a lot of stuff on it. And having backups of backups just because I knew something was going to happen.
Yeah, totally. It was part of the deal. You got to, it was the first question someone would ask you, hey, my computer's going slow. What should I do? Have you defragged your hard drive?
Yeah, burn it. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, and it's sad. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's sad because that, I think, maybe turned people off for a long time, and Apple just took way advantage of that. And you know, now it's a hard argument to switch someone back, right? Because you just said it. Now you're all in. You know, you said it. I have a MacBook Air. I had a MacBook Pro. I have an iMac. I have an Apple TV that me and the kids use, and me and my girlfriend have iPhones. We have an iPad. The kids have
You're
iPad
in, man.
minis.
You are in. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like at that point, like you said, what's the justification? And there really should.
If you live on Earth, of course it sucks on Mars, right? You're like, I'm not. Come on, it's great here.
Right.
I got everything I need.
Right.
I'm not going over there. Oh, but one point I do want to make, and this has been like an irritant about how people discuss this space. You know, they say it's Mac versus PC, Mac versus PC. They're all PCs, personal computer. They're all personal computers. We're talking about the Mac OS versus Windows, not Mac versus PC. That's like saying Mac versus, you know, they're all PCs. It's a personal computer.
Right. Yeah.
So I work on a PC all day. It just happens to run the Mac operating system.
But yeah, some would argue, oh, you have a Hackintosh? No. But I mean, one thing for sure. I mean, I don't think anyone said it, and let's just be real here. It's, you know, Blair is an advertising photographer, right? And what do most advertising photographers know? Hey, more people see my work. You know what I mean? Like that's going to equate to more people, whatever. Yeah. And I feel like everyone does it. You pick a hot button issue, you make an article about it, and suddenly you get tons of hits on your website.
Maybe I should do that.
You know what I mean? Like,
can I somehow merge the Mac versus Windows and the incorrect perception of beauty argument together? into
you know what?
One
throw in drones at that. Right at the end, throw in a part about drones.
I know. Yeah, we're getting so much bad hate mail about how much drone coverage we've done on TWiP is not even funny.
Really?
So let's move away from that then.
Yes, let's move away. No more mentioning the D word for at least a week on. But it was, nice. You know, granted, I'm not going to go into it, but granted, the company that makes those things that start with D, like for 3 weeks, they were releasing new stuff every week. So we had to talk about it. So I'm not going to ignore it because, you know, it's news. It's called This Week in Photography. Sorry. Yeah, but it's interesting. I'm excited about just the whole Microsoft versus Apple thing. I don't even think that's a thing anymore. You know, it's a tool. It's like saying, hey, my whatever GE oven is better than your, you know, Panasonic oven.
Right.
You know,
right.
It's an oven. Who cares? What are you cooking on it? You know?
Right. You said it. I mean, I've never. That's why it's funny when I started writing for F Stoppers. The first thing I told them was, I just want to do original content. I'm not doing bag reviews and gear reviews. And if you're cool with that, you know, fine. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, sure, no problem. And because that was the thing, I've never, like you just said, I never cared. I got tons of nice stuff, you know, and all that kind of stuff. I know my gear. I know how to use it. But like you said, I'm not going to put something out there that means this is my opinion. This is why I own this, and this is why you should own it. And I'm like, because to me, it's, you said it. Anything that someone had, when we talked about it, I was like, cool, you like it? You do? Sweet, awesome. End of conversation. Like, well, I have it. I like it. You have it. You have.
Well, Jose, you and I talked a while back. I think it was earlier this year or late last year. We were talking about how we want to do this discussion about sponsorship kind of things and how that might in some cases, not you Martin, but how that might in some cases taint photographers who are just talking about things that are competing and maybe in some cases better, you know, because they're hamstrung to talk about this stuff. But we have Martin on the show, we can talk about this. So so I think the whole space is interesting. I think having done TWiP for so long, you start seeing patterns in the chaos. And you know, I'm generalizing, but the world of photography, advanced amateur photographers, and I put myself in that bucket, the world of advanced amateur photographers sort of self-segments into people that are just kind of starting and they're hungry for knowledge. And, you know, and the natural reaction is to look at people that are doing work that you admire and try to pattern them. And patterning them means get what they got. So at least you have the right stuff. I mean, you may not have the talent yet, but at least you have the right tools to do what they're doing.
You have one thing covered.
Yeah, you have one thing covered.
You have half the battle. But
Yeah,
not
yeah,
all.
part of the battle. And the camera manufacturers, of course, seize on that, and they're like, okay, well, let's get people that are thought leaders in that space and get them to use our stuff and do the Pied Piper thing, right? So there's those
Yeah.
people, and then the other group are the people that are on the other pros. They don't really care about any of that stuff. They're just shooting, and like Martin, for example. Martin, you're just out there lean workshops and shooting and having a good time and making great art and printing and rinse and repeat, right? So there are those people. So it's like, but you can't see the line. If you're just coming in, you don't see the line between the group A and group B. So
or one thing to note, which to me is always I've been like, I don't like it, but is like you said, the half the time the only thing you hear is the person yelling the loudest, right?
Yeah.
So you just said it. People like Martin in the B camp, a lot of people don't know about them because they just aren't everywhere and in your face.
Yeah.
But the people in the A camp, that's the whole point. That's why they're doing it. They're in your face. They're they're doing this. They're at these expos. They're giving all this kind of stuff. And to an extent, hey, if you're gonna make a living off your camera, it's kind of like, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, we all kind of.
And there's nothing. I'm not slamming those people. There's nothing wrong with that. I think because the information has to get out there. Like, if you're sponsored by, I don't know, like Ellencrom or somebody like that, then it's reasonable to think that you want people that use your stuff or get people to use your stuff to show how awesome it is. So I get that,
right?
But there's like that line in there between the Pied Piper and David Koresh. I don't know.
I think you said it. It's there's definitely an element of like, I don't want to say fakeness, but those people you can definitely tell.
Yeah.
Not genuine or authentic.
Yep. Like we won't say any names, but people that will just wholesale switch from one camera system after talking about it for a decade, saying this is the best camera system on the planet and I use it for everything. I got ads all over my site. And then when that contract ends, it's this other camera system.
Old and busted, new hotness.
Exactly.
Old and busted, new hotness. I mean, it reminds me, again, not to name names, but there was a photographer who was pretty prolific, and we were having a conversation, and we kind of got on this topic, and I agree. To me, like, when you hear it in, like, say, where you are, right, Silicon Valley, you hear people nowadays build an app and then they sell it, right? Like Casey Neistat is a good example. It's pretty relevant right now, where he sold his Beam app to CNN, right? Yeah. And it's not an exorbitant amount of money. It's not billions, it's not hundreds of millions. But if you think about it, people are calling him a sellout. And it's like, in reality, he built something out of nothing and then sold it. Isn't that everyone's intentions? When we really kind of boil it down.
That just gets under my skin when people say that, because it's like,
because it's like, but then, like you said, you like, for instance, like your career, you sell photographs to then be able to buy more gear to then extend your career, right? Or whatever, in that kind of sense. So wouldn't that be the same thing? No one's selling something and then ending up on a yacht or an island. Right, you're just selling something to then.
Hey, I haven't sold TWiP yet, so
to then go to the next thing.
Might be an island in my future. I'm just saying,
Yeah, I mean, look, Elon Musk. When Facebook, everyone knows the story. When Facebook went public, all this stuff, dude had millions of dollars, millions even, and the next month he couldn't make rent.
Yeah.
It was like, because he dumped it all into Tesla and the energy company. So. That's a great entrepreneurial mindset. You know what I mean? And this photographer said something to the effect of, what was it? If you want to make a living, sell your photography. If you want to make a career, you sell to other photographers.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
And I was like, I get it,
Yeah.
But then again, I see exactly that.
Was that photographer P.T. Barnum? I think it was P.T. Barnum. Well, that's a good segue into the story number 3, which is phase 1. And I want to talk about phase 1 because I know several people that use phase 1 gear and Capture One software. And it's been, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's been like this awesome piece of software that not a whole lot of people know about. And I think not a whole lot of people know about it because they make assumptions that, well, I don't shoot that expensive medium format stuff, so I can't use Capture One. Lightroom and Photoshop are for me. Martin, you have intimate experience with Capture One software, and you don't shoot with Capture One hardware, to my knowledge, right?
Nah.
So what's the deal?
Well, earlier this year, for many years, Capture One has been on my radar, and I picked it up, I think, back in version 4 or 5, gave it a try. It wasn't very intuitive. And then I tried again in 7, and it was getting good, but there was still a bit of a learning curve to actually switch over. And the other thing is I was really, really happy with Lightroom. But then in June or July this year, I decided to sit down and I assigned, to begin with, just a few hours. I thought, I've got a few hours. I'm going to sit and play with it and see if I can make it work. I grabbed like 50 of my favorite images, dropped them into a folder, and installed version 9 of Capture One and opened it up. And all of a sudden, I could see detail in some of my photographs that I'd never seen before. Lightroom had never showed exactly. I mean, I was blown away, and I thought, okay, hang on, there's something here. So I dug deeper, and by the end of the afternoon, I was thinking, I'm going to switch. And I did. I switched over, and I haven't used Lightroom other than to go in and check on certain things for the last 6 months. And I did all of my Greenland work and Iceland work, pretty much everything, not pretty much everything I'm doing now. Capture One is my main. It's become my asset management as well as my raw processing program.
No, so that was my question. So it has replaced Lightroom for you,
yes,
both on the digital asset management side and the raw processing side. So you don't need Lightroom for anything.
I don't use Lightroom for anything now. I've got to mention that it's not as smooth. In some ways, there are things that Lightroom definitely does better, but the image quality is so much better with Capture One that I can live with the things that it doesn't do quite as well. Printing is not as intuitive. You can't print. You can print pretty nice, pretty well out of Capture One, but Lightroom's works a little bit better in that respect. There are other things like you can't select a top level folder. Like I have all of my images in year, month, and day folders, and I can't select 2016 and see every photograph that I've shot in 2016. I have to drill down to the day folder. I can select all images and see them all, but you can't do it from the folders. So I can't just go to November and things like that. So there are things that Lightroom definitely does better, but Capture One, as we mentioned, this story, they've just released Capture One 10, and I've been working with the beta and providing feedback. I think it's not. There aren't any specific features that are going to blow people away, I don't think, but it's become a bit faster. There are some cool things. There's now some spectacles in the toolbar that will show the proof. Until now, you could set up Capture One so that it always used the profile that you've got selected in your output settings. So you were basically always in soft proofing mode. Now you can set it so that it doesn't do that, but then you can click on these spectacles and it'll show you what the image is going to look like with your selected profile. On the negative side, it still doesn't have any gamut warnings. So if you're going to print and the profile and the printer that you are going to print to doesn't have the ability to print a certain color, there's no warning. It will look off on the display, on your monitor, so you can tell. But there's still a few things that I'd love them to add, and I've fed this back to the Phase One team. But it's good. It's good enough at doing what it does for me.
Martin,
that I just switch.
does it create a proprietary database, or does it replicate a folder hierarchy from your hard drive?
A lot of the stuff, the majority of the information that it has are in a proprietary database. It only stores generic things like keywords and star ratings, things like that. You can set it up so that it puts them in the XMP file. But a lot of the settings and the adjustments go into a proprietary database. That's another thing that I don't necessarily like. I used to enjoy the fact that Lightroom would just save all of that into the XMP if you told it to.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, that's one of the things that I'm living with because I've fallen in love with the program.
What are you missing out of Lightroom? Like, from what do you miss that Lightroom had that Capture One is lacking in?
Off the top of my head, I miss Lightroom Mobile. I miss being able to just throw something into a catalog and say, sync this on all of my devices. That's one of the ways that I used to use to show my portfolio or just to share work with people easily. I miss that. I miss the better control over the print templates. I miss the gamut warnings for printing and soft proofing. Like I say, I miss the ability to select just a month and see all of the images from that month.
Yeah.
But there are some things in that area, you know, like there are some very, very powerful filter features in Capture One, and a lot of it is more about getting used to how to do it in Capture One. They're not trying to replicate Lightroom. They're trying to provide professional tools, and in the most part, they've done that. I think that there's areas that they can still improve for sure.
Yeah, that's why they call it software. It's soft,
right? But they're doing a great job. I really like these. There's a few things like the output proofing in version 10. They've got that one thing that's really, really exciting, but I've not been able to fully test it yet. Is that they now support removal of diffraction, the effects of diffraction in lenses. And that's big because...
What about lens correction for distortion and stuff like Lightroom does?
But they've got that. They're not very quick at updating the profiles. There are some lenses that have been out for a while that still aren't in here, but they've got profile correction. The diffraction correction, Canon a number of years ago released something in their Digital Photo Professional called, I think, the Digital Lens Optimizer. And I was actually showed this at Canon at their HQ once under NDA, but I was, it later came out, so I can talk about it now. But the Digital Lens Optimizer, basically, because Canon know exactly how all of their lenses are designed, they can reverse engineer the light through each element of the lens and get rid of diffraction. And just for people that don't figure it, that haven't heard about this, what diffraction is, it's when you push light through a very small hole. So in the case of photography, through a very small aperture like f/16 or smaller, the light spreads out, it blooms on the other side of the hole, and it makes the whole image softer. So we're used to the fact that you can stop down your aperture to smaller apertures like f/16, f/22 to get more depth of field, more of the image in focus. But once you get much down past f/16, everything gets softer because of diffraction. So if you can reverse engineer the path of the light through the elements of the lens and actually figure out why it got diffracted and correct that, that's a big thing. And that's what the Digital Lens Optimizer did. And it works really well. Now, like I say, I haven't checked the real effects on a very small aperture photograph in Capture One yet. But if this works as well as the Digital Lens Optimizer does, this is great, because I would never use Digital Photo Professional from Canon to work on my images. The only time I used that software was when I had to go down to like f/22 and I needed to remove the diffraction. So other than that, they needed to get this technology in the hands of other people. I don't know if they've actually allowed Capture or Phase 1 to use this in Capture One, but if it works as well as that, then this is a big feature just in itself.
I'm curious how this is going to do, because the Adobe made kind of the power move with the Creative Cloud subscription model, right? So now people are it's kind of like flypaper. They're kind of like stuck in there, like, well, if I have Lightroom, they're given to, I might as well use it, and then Capture One, which may be a superior alternative, but it's $300. Right. So, but it's a one-time fee of $300. So you could,
and they do have a subscription model as well.
Well, they do. Okay.
Yeah. So you can do either. But one thing that I learned this week, someone commented on my blog, so a person that lives in Namibia cannot get the Creative Cloud. And they called, I said, why don't you just, they said, I've tried everything. I said, why don't you just call Adobe support? And they said, I did. And they just said, it's not supported in my country. So people, if you live in Namibia, you cannot get
See that? I don't understand that. Like a bit is a bit is a bit. Like if you have a computer, they make the software that runs on that,
right. So,
clearly I'm ignorant of licensing and all that stuff, but
yeah. So I mean, Adobe, if they're going to move to a model like I support the Creative Cloud, and I'm going to keep my Creative Cloud subscription.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
I use Photoshop, I use InDesign, I use Audition, I use Premiere Pro, I use a lot of that. So I'm not going to get rid of my Creative Cloud, but when hearing things like that's disappointing because if you're going to move to a model like the Creative Cloud, you've got to make it available to everyone. It's
in Adobe's defense, who knows what the the legal wranglings are around selling subscription software in that country. So maybe that has hamstrung them, and maybe it's on their rollout map. Like Apple says, hey, iPhone is now supported in all these countries now. Maybe we'll see that. But who knows? Who knows?
I hate it when companies do things like that. But I understand. I can see that there's probably something like that in the background. I'm used to waiting. Living in Japan, I've only just got Spotify. Everyone's been raving about Spotify for years. I'm like,
we've moved on from that party, Martin. You're now.
everyone else is. I mean, maybe that's the case.
Hey,
but
I still use it. I still use it.
But just the fact that you have to put the still on there. See,
we've only just got it. So I understand that.
I still have my Spotify subscription, but for the most part, I'm using Apple Music now because it's.
I've just cancelled my Apple Music subscription. That's one thing. I mean, that's the Kool-Aid has not got me on the music side.
Yeah.
Because tell you why. There was twice just before a trip where I've been going abroad and I want to make sure I've got everything all of my music that I want to listen to downloaded to my iPhone. I check and it's all been deleted.
Oh, I've heard that from other people too.
All of my music was gone from my iPhone. And so
I've heard horror stories about like much with your Namibia issue with the software from Adobe. I've heard people say that licensing restrictions have prevented them from listening to music in whatever country that they've been in. Like if they're in Canada, you spend all your time setting up your playlists or whatever, and then you go to some place in Europe and licensing changes, your playlists change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Well,
that could suck. That could really suck. Yeah.
I don't know how well Spotify's doing on this, but the guy that I travel with in Iceland, Tim Folmer, he swore by Spotify, and he travels all around the world, and he didn't mention any problems with not being able to get stuff in various countries. So cool. I think it's based on your original subscription address. So now we've got it in Japan. I'm on board. So I'm happy with that. So what have you moved on to from Spotify? Oh, so yeah, Apple Music was what you moved on to.
And I'll tell you, and I still have both. I mean, listen, you're gonna laugh. So these are the music services I'm currently subscribed to. So Apple Music, Spotify. I'm on YouTube Red because I hate YouTube commercials. So I get Google Music or YouTube Music. So I have that. I have an Amazon Prime subscription, so I have Amazon.
Oh yeah, I forgot they have music.
I've got music everywhere, but the main reason I gravitate towards Apple Music is because of the playlists. So now I have playlists on my phone, and if I add a song or whatever, it shows up on my Apple TV, and it's on my iPad, and I can play it through the stereo in the living room or in the bedroom. It's just much like my podcasts. Everything is always the same, no matter what device I'm sitting at. So that's the main reason.
I've been without turning this into This Week in Music. I've been doing the same. I've really been enjoying the playlists in Spotify, but the recommendations. The thing about Spotify that I really like is the way it makes really good recommendations based on the music that you're listening to, and you can see what all of your friends are listening to. So it's just what's that?
The social aspect.
Shared playlists are killer, man. I love shared playlists because it's like keeps me hip. because all my nephews and cousins and all them are, I'm like subscribed to their playlists. So now I appear like I have good music taste.
Hey, check out my MB favorites. That's got stuff from the last 30, 40 years.
Favorites. Okay.
I'm pretty proud of my main playlist.
All right.
Nice.
Hey, I got to make sure I write that down right. I'm in podcasting handwriting mode. I can't read what I write half the time. So. Cool.
Go Dr. Scratch. Yeah.
Totally. Well, before we leave phase one, Jose, do you have any experience with phase one?
Well, it's funny. You mentioned two things that, oddly enough, were a big part of my first job. So my first job out of college, while I was in grad school, was at a high-end studio. And in the high-end studio, I found out about Wacom tablets. Mm-hmm. At the time, I had, some decent gear, and I was shooting some stuff and making a little bit of money. But I was the same as you guys. I was just on like Photoshop, and I think at the time, Bridge and Photoshop, that was it. I wasn't even to Lightroom then. And when I got this job, one of the big things I liked about it was that it was all amazing gear. So it was, and this is going back, so it was like a Canon 1DS Mark II, all L glass, whole stick wall studio, all Broncoa lighting. We had all Wacom tablets on nice computers with what is the I'm already forgetting the super nice monitors
Hazel.
that are that are like, it's still insanely priced, but I mean and I got to use all that stuff. So one of the first things was that was my first foray into Capture One, and it was funny. One of the funniest quirks I remember was that we would shoot, especially when you're starting, probably 300 to 400 shot sessions, and these are 45-minute sessions, and usually you'd probably get anywhere from 8 to 10 in a day, and we would then have to cull that session into 25 to 35 photos. So you were supposed to clear your trash can every day before you left. Like most people who are shooting a bunch of sessions, cleaning up dog pee and baby puke and running in and editing shows, it doesn't happen. So every time someone would complain, oh man, Capture One's working really slow for me. Have you emptied your trash? And there would be like 80 gigs of just throwing away raw files in there. And I'm like, yeah, that's going to hinder performance. And it would always cause the crash. But I mean, like you said, that was 10 years ago. Yeah. So it was the same thing where it wasn't my favorite program, but I've been kind of checking in on it like you, Martin, every once in a while and being like, hey, it's getting a lot better. It's getting a lot better. And for me, it's just, I haven't really honestly been processing enough lately to even justify making the switch. Yeah. But one thing I want to ask you was, you said you've made it replace your archival software or actually management. Were you able to like transfer stuff from Lightroom with tags and keywords? You had to start all over again.
No, there's a path. You can select import from Lightroom, and what you do is you take your Lightroom catalog and just export the catalog without the images. And then you can, when you import that, it gets all of your keywords and star ratings and a certain amount of the adjustments, exposure, things like that. It brings a certain amount in. Yeah. So you
probably not any localized adjustments that you've made. Right, don't make it over, right? Yeah.
All of the local adjustments and things like that are lost. Even like spot removal, stuff like that's lost as well. So there's a time investment. But what I'm finding is that I'm going back, and whenever I'm trying not to jump back into Lightroom to grab an image. So when I need something for a magazine article or to share with someone, I'm going back through my my archives in Capture One and just checking for dust again and just removing any additional dust. It takes a bit of time. There's a time investment. Yeah. There's a time investment on the learning curve as well, because it's, in many ways, once you know it, it's really intuitive. But to begin with, you will invest a certain amount of time if you move to Capture One. But luckily for the listeners, I've put together a whole bunch of blog posts
Oh, cool! Because I need that. I was thinking
go.
about how am I going to learn about this stuff. Well, you have
Well,
something set up?
I've got a link that will just display all of the tutorials, and I've just put together a simple adjustment guide for the Phase 1 team that they've released as well. But I've got all of this stuff on my blog, and it explains all of the process that I went through to jump ship and how I prepared to move to Capture One, all of the steps that you need to do. So I'll put a link in our show notes.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
cool.
For sure.
That's good. You should have led with that, Martin. Come on, man.
I know, right? And so, like you said, not to make it this week in music, but one of the funniest thing was at that time, what we used to play music in the studio was Pandora. And
I still have a Pandora subscription as well. So.
So this is before ads, before anything. It was really nice back then, as you can imagine. And like you said, it was the same thing. It put me on to music I never would have guessed I liked, based on what I was thumbs upping and thumbs downing and all that kind of stuff. And I remember that was the biggest thing I liked about it, because as much as I love music, I am horribly behind.
Yeah, same here. That's
much
the,
like
that's
yeah,
the
much
biggest
like
problem.
you.
That's the biggest problem.
I just use my friends' stuff. I would tell my friends, like back when CDs were a thing, I used to tell my friends, "Hey, I want burn me a couple CDs, and I'll just put it in my computer and put it in my iTunes." LOL. But yeah, I mean,
I'm aging myself, but back in the
8 tracks.
8 tracks were pretty cool.
You had to go there, man. You had to.
I mean, I can see you being a Radio Raheem.
It was a reel to reel, man. We had reel to reel back there. Radio Raheem. What's the matter with you? No, back in at a tech company that I used to work at. This was back in named. This was back. Yeah, it will not be named, because we had a server, and this is back when Napster was kind of had just showed up. And, everyone was dumping all their music on the server. And we had this, I would imagine the server is probably like what iTunes is right now. So you go in there, basically any music that you could possibly think of there's a folder of that artist and all of the music that artist made. So,
nice.
Of course, I never copied anything off of that server.
Oh, no, of course not.
It was there.
Napster? I never heard of this.
Yeah, it was
what is
there.
This Napster?
But now now I'm making up for it because I'm subscribed to like 12 services.
Well, we had something similar in my old. We had something similar in the company that I used to work for, and I ended up I copied a few albums back when probably it was 2000 or something like that. But I ended up becoming a fan of those artists and went out and bought more CDs. Yeah. So, and
or rediscovering artists, right?
Right. And in some cases, I bought the CD that I pirated in the first place. So I think there's definitely something to be said for that. But I never got into Napster.
Our whole office was machines would never go to sleep. Like we would leave and their machines would be cranking all the time.
Yeah, because you had to download a million albums at once. Which was so dumb.
Exactly.
But you would always do it, and then you're like, oh, I gotta let it run overnight.
Yeah. And then while your Napster's running, obviously everyone else is uploading from you, and that was the whole point of distributed based computing back in the day. Crazy. Yeah. All right.
Well, quick. Martin made a good comment that I want to say. That's the one thing I miss about music. There's no, I'll just say, pass along readership. Right? He said it. CDs, physical, books. Like I have books. I still buy books. But I also have a Kindle I like reading off of. Yep. And honestly, I kind of miss CDs or any physical asset, because I could literally give that to a friend. Now, of course, yes, I can send people digital, whatever, but it's not the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's over.
And it's,
It's over. It's over, much like not taking your shoes off when you go through airport security. That's a past. Those days are gone, man. At least here.
Thank you, Shoe Bomber.
You don't have to do that yet.
Well, give it some time, Martin. Give us some time. Give us some time.
But we do have those what is it? The X-ray machines that almost show you naked in some places. But
last time I went through TSA and they made me go through one of those, I'm like, do I have to pay for this vasectomy? Like, no, nice. It's free. It's free. We're gonna Oh man! All right, guys. Let's move on. Let's move into the listener Q&A segment. Today's question is pretty interesting. It's from a user. His name's David. He says, "Just wondering what you guys think of wrist straps as a method to use and stay ready." I'm a big fan of wrist straps. In fact, I use the Peak Design wrist straps with the quick disconnect. So I have, the straps, the regular camera straps that I can put whatever camera I'm taking with me in quickly, or disconnect it and put the wrist strap on it and rock and roll. Like if I'm doing like a day walking around, I don't know, it depends on the day, but I don't generally walk around with my camera on my side anymore. I usually keep it in my hand and hold it. What about you, Martin? What's your camera's bigger, obviously, but how do you manage it?
I generally just use the regular straps. I used to use a wrist strap way back in, what was it? It was with my D30. So not the 30D, the D30. So that was like 16 years ago. But now if I need to free up my hands and I want to carry something around and I need it there really quickly, I often use the Black Rapid straps. Because then
like
you've got
grip?
this.
That's like a grip, right?
Well, no, it's a sling.
It's a sling. Okay.
I'm on their website now trying to find out the exact model, but I use their double strap when I'm using two cameras, but that's sort of more for when I'm doing wildlife. I think it's now called the Sport Left Breath. What a stupid name for a product.
Breath.
Yeah.
Breath?
Okay. Breathe. It's got an E on the end. So so what this basically a strap.
Share your screen. Let us see it.
Let me just do that then. So here we go.
I want to make sure this is breathe and not something else.
You're about to collapse all the connection in Japan.
I know. That's right.
go.
Martin's sucking up all the bandwidth.
I've got like a 360 megabits per second connection. It's not going to happen. If I don't,
all right, I take back what I said.
If I don't choke Backblaze, I can upload 72 gigabytes per day. So it's pretty cool.
You have one of the newer ones. I have one of the OG originals that has none of that. Just a regular straight strap.
Right. The cool thing about this is because it's got this strap here that goes around it goes under your other arm. It stops the strap from moving around. And
like a gun holster, man. You do not walk through an airport with that thing on. It looks.
So the cool thing about it is, though, if you look at this screenshot, they on the website, the camera goes like it's slung underneath. So the handle and the grip just falls where your palm is, and you can zip it up. It moves up this belt really easily. So it's easy. It's a good way to. Let me just. Here we go. There's Frederick looking back at you. So it's a good way to carry a camera if you want it there ready. But then the good thing about this is that once you don't need it, you can just let it go, and it will fall back down by your side.
That's a good point, because I wonder for photographers like you, Martin, that you're leading workshops, you're doing landscape, and you're kind of running around town. I would think that your kind of photography is more considered in that you don't necessarily need to have a camera at the ready unless you're maybe shooting, wildlife or something. I kind of picture you on a tripod most of the time. And do you even need a strap?
Right. So that's the thing. I do need to figure out how to stop sharing my screen. Here we go. I do when I'm doing landscape, I work from a tripod a lot, and then I just keep the cameras with not a regular strap. The straps that I use are called Optec USA. The cool thing about these straps is that they come with a clip, so I can take the strap off. And one of the reasons I use that more than anything is because when I do use the camera with the Black Rapid, I can take the regular strap off, but it leaves these little like attachments in the strap holder. Yeah. And because once I've taken the strap out, I can then loop the bits that are left through the base of the Black Rapid and clamp them together. So if the camera should come off the Black Rapid holder for any reason, it's not going to fall to the floor. And that's really important when I'm using longer lenses like 100 to 400, things like that, because I put the Black Rapid on the base of the, on the tripod shoe.
The tripod collar. Mm-hmm.
Right. Once I do that, there's nothing attaching the lens. And Canon cameras have a tendency, if you sling them upside down by the lens, the camera rotates and falls off the lens. Yeah, and that's not good. That's happened to me in a Zodiac full of water in Antarctica, and it was not a good experience. Whoa. So I came back from that and straight away bought these Optec USA straps, because it allows me to attach the body to the Black Rapid, loop it through the Black Rapid strap, and that way, if it does fall off, it's not going to fall to the ground. So
yeah,
that's
cool. Well, make sure you put that link in the show notes, and we'll link over to that. Jose, what about you, man? Are you a strap guy, or are you a wrist strap guy?
You know what's funny? I've done it all. So Martin mentioned Optec USA, and when I used to shoot club work, this is like when I was in grad school, actually. So when I worked at the studio, I went to school full time, then I worked at a nightclub on the weekends. And because of, this was before Black Rapid, which I actually have now, but before then, it was an Optec USA that went around your hand, right? It was like soft, and then it would snap around your wrist. So the reason why I liked it was, like you said, I would walk around and just pull my hand in my face, and take a picture. But what I liked about it was, imagine you're in a club, it's packed with people. I would put my arm up in the air and just kind of like rest it and walk through a crowd of people without actually getting drinks spilled on it and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And that was why I liked it. Fast forward to now, I use a lot of what Martin uses. So when I shoot a lot now, it's event coverage. So it's two bodies, and I usually use the Black Rapid that has the the two camera straps, kind of like you said, like a holster.
Yeah.
And I have them just sitting at the end. And like he said, it's very rare that I've ever had, especially shooting automotive and Grand Prix and stuff. I never missed a shot, because it was like he said, it comes up very naturally and it slings right up the strap. That I love them. And what I actually like about it is really nice when walking through crowds now is you can actually put these little snap, like I guess like stays, right?
Yeah.
That you can slide them down, and I can put them at the base of my back and snap them down. And now the cameras won't move from my back. So if I want to walk through a crowd and not worry about my cameras banging around, because usually they're on the sides, I can put them around my back and walk through a crowd, no problem. So I've used them a lot. But other than that, let me see if both my cameras aren't even here. Yeah. But what's crazy now is if I'm not doing either of those things, I just hold it with no strap on it. And it sometimes I see people watch me and go, "You're joking," and I'm like,
"Yeah, that's a little
no. I mean,
dangerous.
I just treat it like it's supposed to be treated. If I'm not, if I'm not.
When I was shooting Nikon, I used to put it was like, I think it was actually from Nikon, but it was a grip or a holder that you attach to the bottom of the camera and then to the right ring. On the right side of the camera, and
that's how the Optec. That's how the
Optec
your
hand goes in there and just felt. You cinch it up so that it fits your hand, and it just felt like your camera's a part of you. You whip it up, you shoot, and it's like a weapon.
Yeah.
And then I moved to smaller cameras, and that's no longer possible because the camera is not big enough. This is what I'm using right now. I think I have a couple of these things. This is I mentioned this before. This is the Peak Design cuff. And it's just this little guy, and these little connectors are on all of my cameras. So depending on what I want to do that day, I can put a cuff on there, or I can put a camera strap on there, and it just kind of looks like this, right?
So yeah, I have one of those, but what I quickly realized was it's more, like you said, for smaller cameras.
It is, yeah.
Because I put that on my D4,
and your D4 laughed at it.
Yeah, well, it held on, but it was just like my wrist. All of a sudden, my hand was purple, pulsating within a few seconds, and I was like, "Oh, right, this is for much smaller cameras, right?"
Yeah,
right.
And this is what I did. So I thought this was a joke because they have it on the side here. I'm kind of showing it because you can basically wrap it around your wrist, and it becomes kind of a wristband. And I thought, like, why would I want to do that? But you don't want to do that when you want to have the option of having the wrist strap and having a regular camera strap. So if you're going out for the day and you want your camera hanging around your neck, and then that night you want to put it on the strap, you can just unhook it real quick and slap this thing on there, and you're rocking and rolling. So yeah.
I have found that really nice. Like you said, I've used it when I was shooting a wedding like a month ago, and I used both, right? So I had the Black Rapid, and then I was like, other times I'd take it off, because there's some times when, like, if you want to go above a certain point, like above your head, it does kind of start hitting you. So I would take it off of that and then put it up here. And then I was like, let me use that, Peak Design cuff. Yeah. And like I said, it worked, but it was definitely more firster. But like you said, the feature of what sold me a lot of friends, and actually a lot of people in general, is the quick, you can swap it to whatever you want. Like you put those little dongles everywhere, and you can just throw a camera on there.
And I'm done.
So that's pretty neat. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
All my cameras have those little things on there. So much like the Apple ecosystem, kind of stuck in the Peak Design ecosystem.
You just literally, you make it so that
I'm just a lemming. I'm just a lemming.
Driven. Yeah.
Well, I find something that works, and then I stick with it. That's my
really.
That's my,
how about music subscriptions?
Well, they all work, so I'm sticking with all of them. No, I am. I have a note in my Wunderlist to cancel all music subscriptions except for one winner. I just haven't determined who that winner is, and that's by the end of the year.
Is that the thing?
I have a month.
I was gonna say you keep snoozing it. It's like
pretty much.
Keep hitting
pretty much. You know why? And I hate to keep digressing to this, but even yesterday, what was it? I'm on this kick now. I'm building this playlist of instrumentals from like popular pop music and hip hop songs. The instrumental tracks sound ridiculously cool, right? So I'm like finding all these instrumental tracks from all these different artists, and Apple didn't have what was one I was looking for? Happy from Pharrell Williams. You know that Happy song? So I'm like, I want the instrumental for that on my instrumental playlist, and I couldn't find it on one service, so I had to go to the other service. So, that's what's keeping me, because they don't have parity across their libraries yet.
It's right there in Spotify. Found it in the moment.
Martin Bailey!
we can play this for like 15 seconds and not get copyright claim.
Yeah, and then the whole show will be flagged and pulled down. Especially since you're on the show, Martin, because you're the flag magnet.
Yeah, I'm probably the only person on the planet that pays for all of my licenses, and I keep getting slapped with copyright notices.
I even used a copywritten song once, and they flagged it and said, by the way, this video has been flagged, but you don't need to do anything. We're just going to put a buy now button on there. So like it'll play the song, but overlaid on the song, people can actually go buy it.
The thing is once you get those notices, and I don't want them to put ads on my I don't put ads on my videos, because I would rather people have an unhindered viewing experience.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do that. But I also, if you say I don't want to do that, the only option is to fight the claim. And if you don't fight the claim, you can't even do Hangouts on air, because they limit your account. They do all sorts of things. So I got sick of fighting this, so I just deleted all of my videos from YouTube. I only use Vimeo now.
So. Yeah, we need another YouTube, and we need an alternative to you. And I say this as I'm living in their living room talking bad about them. But for competition's sake, I know we have Vimeo, we've got Wistia, we've got these other also rans, but we need another giant gorilla like YouTube alternative to do the kind of stuff that YouTube's lets us do.
I'd be happy if they just came up with a proper system to allow people to upload proof of having a license. They've never done that. And I fight these claims, and the moment they take the claim off, 3 or 4 other robots come along and slap the claim back on. I was forever doing it.
That's the thing. Mad. Yeah, that's the thing, because it's not that hard to file a claim, and people have been abusing that, because they abuse the bureaucracy and kind of the lack of bandwidth that YouTube has to police that stuff, which means if Jose puts up a video that I just don't like for whatever reasons, maybe it's political, maybe it's some gear that I don't like or whatever, I can flag him and it gets pulled down.
You know, these ones, the ones I'm talking about, it's not people flagging it. It's that YouTube literally have
it's their machine.
They allowed it's machines that are going through and listening to tracks and just matching them.
Well, there's two different things. There's that, you know, when those algorithms hear copywritten music on your slideshows or whatever, yeah, they will automatically flag it. Basically, they're using a similar technology that Shazam and those kind of algorithms use to listen and identify song usage. But what I'm talking about is the other side, when humans nefariously flag things just for whatever nefarious purposes that they have to get it pulled down, and then you have to go do your Michael Jackson Thriller dance to get it put back up, right? So, you know, which doesn't always work because I can't do the Thriller dance. So I don't know. It's a mess. Brilliant. It's the world we live in with cloud-based computing and these free, quote, free services. Right?
But, you know, I would rather them just charge me.
I would love to pay.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind paying if they just leave me alone. But the way they've got it, they've got no system for proving that you've bought a license. They've got no way to pay to stop them bugging you. Yeah. You know, it's just a bad system.
We've got YouTube Red. Wouldn't it be great if they did YouTube Pro that let you all the stuff that we need as pros, basically like a Wistia kind of thing for a Wistia or Vimeo kind of.
I'm not talking about paying for permission to copyright to pirate music. I'm just asking to have the best thing really would be, even if I had to pay for it, just have a system to upload proof of purchase. That's all I need, because I buy everything that I either buy or make the music myself. So that's
why you got two keyboards behind you, huh?
Have you, Mark, have you ever been flagged on some music that you made and put in there?
No, I know someone that has. A friend of mine
has flagged your song, Martin Bailey.
A friend of mine who lives in, I think it's in San Francisco, Forrest Tanaka. He said that he made some of music of his own and it was flagged. So I don't know.
Well, we digressed, David, from camera wrist straps. I hope that answered your question. We'll put a link to the ones that we use, or links to the ones that we use, in the show notes, and you can check them out. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to jump into this week's picks of the week. All right, guys, it's time for the Picks of the Week segment. Remember, you guys can recommend anything to the TWiP Army as long as it is somehow related to photography. Martin, I'm going to let you go first, man. What's your pick of the week?
So, Apple don't need any help with marketing. They might do if Blair gets his way, but I've just bought the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and I just wanted to give a shout out for the Touch Bar. This thing, Apple, everyone's saying, oh, since Steve Jobs died, they're not innovating. This is pretty innovative. I like it a lot. It's not supported by every application that I open that I have still, but like I use like AirMail for my email client. They've got really good support for the Touch Bar. One Password have got they've got the new fingerprint recognition, so I can now get into that. I can sign in with the fingerprint recognition. I'm really enjoying it. So even photos, I use photos. Just I mentioned earlier that I miss Lightroom Mobile. I've installed Photos, Apple Photos, and I'm sharing things around like that now. And you go in there, I can look at an album of, say, my Greenland work. I mean, I know that people won't be able to see this, but if I show my screen here quickly, you can see that on the screen there's a little a thumbnail bar of all of the images in this album, and I can just literally flick I can just literally flick across.
He broke his new MacBook Pro.
Live on TWiP.
Yeah, didn't make a hole in that. No, it's good. I actually replaced my first MacBook Pro because I gouged a big dent in the lid on walking downstairs on a moving ship in Antarctica. So that was not a good thing to do. But yeah, so the The touch bar, that's what I wanted to say. Even if people are looking at they're thinking of getting a new MacBook Pro, and there's the non-touch bar option, just pay the extra for the touch bar. You won't regret it. It's really, really cool, and you can do a lot of good things with it.
And Martin, the touch bar has a Touch ID on it too, right? Like your iPhone, so you can unlock your Mac with it. Although I thought about that, and I'm like, yeah, that would be kind of cool to have that. But I have this guy, the Apple Watch, which you can configure to unlock your Mac when you sit down at it. So I sit down at my Mac and hit a key, and it unlocks my phone. My watch vibrates and says, "Hey, I unlocked your Mac for you," and I'm off into the races. So,
well, I think it's about options. I mean, I probably won't get an Apple Watch, and I am expecting that Apple will bring out a keyboard with the touch built in.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll probably have a keyboard with the touch bar and the fingerprint thing built in. Mm-hmm. Rumors have it that there's no rumors that it's going to happen, but people are speculating, and we'll probably see something like that within 6 months or so.
Can I speculate a little further?
Yeah,
I think the touch bar is just a toe in the water, and I think eventually Apple is going to basically get rid of the entire mechanical keyboard from one, maybe not all portable Macs, but there'll be a option to have a Mac that's completely glass, a completely glass display and a completely glass keyboard that is configurable. So it can be a keyboard, or it could be whatever. I think that is the future.
I would say respectfully disagree.
All right, let's put some money on it.
I can put up to 3 digits on that. I'm not confident enough to go over that. But
hey, wait, in what currency? Vietnamese dong or something?
So pay a yen. So it's like $3.
The keys on this new on the new MacBook Pros as well, they've got a beautiful feel to them. They don't travel far, but they've got this new sort of thing underneath them that the experience of typing with a tactile key is still something that I like a lot. Yeah. And I think that, especially for me, I mean, I don't dilbert. I'm not like looking at the keyboard. I need something there. These little noggins on the F and the J key. I put my index fingers on there, and I blind touch type. So,
but they could put those on there. They could put those little nubbins on the what is it, the J and the F key, and then have the rest just be kind of that force touch, because they can do the force touch now, where they give you the tactile feedback when you hit the key. They can do that already. I'm not saying they'll eliminate it. Well, you never know, Apple and the headphone port and all that stuff. But I think maybe they'll test it on a removable keyboard for iMacs or something first.
Yeah, but maybe it might happen. But if
a third party could do it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, well, yeah, I'm like, it's like all of my friends have that computer now. Like everybody.
Really?
Yeah. Whereas like the fifth person has like everybody has a 15-inch. You're the first person with the 13, and that's the one I wanted.
I've done that for travelability. The other thing that I want to just quickly say is I've tested the hard drive, the SSD speeds in this, and it's off the chart. I don't know if I've still got this here, but yeah. So I used the Blackmagic Design disk speed test, and the read speeds are 2,000 megabits per second. So and this is like compared to I think 400 or so in my SSD in my old 3-year-old MacBook Pro. Writes at almost 1,600 megabits per second. And there are reasons why people will talk about it's how many lanes you have, and but raw speed it's like 5 times faster than my 3-year-old MacBook Pro.
I want to see what your opinion of that thing is after you go on a trip with it, and the lack of the SD card slot, and
won't bother me. All of my cameras use compact flash, so I have to use a card reader anyway.
Oh, okay.
And I've bought USB 3.1 or the USB-C card readers. I've got a little hub that's got HDMI on there, so I'm set. I can just
you got all the dongles. You're all ready.
Oh, you know, I bought the Apple dongles, and then Frederick told me after last month's TWiP show that they'd reduced the price, so I went and got a refund for the difference.
Oh, good.
Oh, nice.
But then I honestly, I'm just replacing the cables. Apart from Thunderbolt, if you go from Thunderbolt 1 or 2 to 3, you've got to buy the dongle. But with USB, just buy new cables. I've replaced all of my cables, and I'm good. I don't need those dongles.
All right. We'll see. I'm trying to gauge, Jose. I'm trying to gauge if this is reality or Stockholm syndrome. You know.
Honestly, I mean, when I looked it up, when
I see some Kool-Aid around your mouth there, Martin.
Oh, I know. When I saw you scrolling on the site, I'm shocked. I knew they were making them lighter and lighter, but literally, what I'm wondering is, at what point, I mean, granted, it's Apple. They're selling a ton of shit anyway, but at what point does it kind of start eating into the MacBook Air sales?
Yeah, that's
because
that's the thing, right? Basically,
the
when
new
you
MacBook Pro weighs exactly the same. Weighs exactly the same as my MacBook Air.
This is actually thinner than the Air. So the Air is pretty much no more. And this thing will fit in the smallest bags. I can actually fit this inside the large vest pocket on my travel vest, on my photography vest.
And it's a computer.
It's a supercomputer. You shoot wildlife. Yeah.
and it's faster than my 3-year-old MacBook Pro just because of the specs. But the only thing that it doesn't have, it's not got quad core CPU. It's a dual core. But so far, it's ripping through everything that I'm doing. So I'm happy.
All right. Well, you're going to be my canary in the coal mine. I'm going to watch you for about a month. If you're still happy come the beginning of 2017, I may pull a trigger on that.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. That's a good pick, the Apple Touch Bar. Jose Rosado, man, what's your pick of the week?
My pick is something that isn't, very kind of crazy new or anything like that, but it was making me think, like a lot of us do, right? Where of Apple, like when we have our iPhones now, ask me what I take probably 80% of my usual day-to-day photos on, and it's my iPhone. Right? You think about it, you go on traveling, you go wherever, you might have a camera, but at the same time, if you quickly just go and take a picture, you're going to do it. So one thing I've always found really interesting is the people that take that extreme to the next level. Very timely, because The Rock is on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and it was the first cover of the magazine that was shot on an iPhone.
Oh, wow.
And
Dwayne Johnson is related to me, right? We're both Johnson.
David Bailey's my uncle.
He's my cousin or something. I don't know.
Yeah, he's my cousin.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is these they're from Moondog Labs, and they're actually anamorphic adapter lenses for your iPhone. So basically, you can shoot a whole movie on your iPhone and have it look like this gorgeous, whatever the ratio is. And people have been using them, like film students and even real film people, just to kind of see what they can do on a crazy small budget. What? It's pretty wild when you see an iPhone on like a jib and a crane, but it happens, but to me, it was hysterical. And I thought to myself, I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking to myself, like, if you're on a budget, now, mind you, my D4 does video, but I was like, that'd be kind of cool, just to try it out and see what you could do and that kind of stuff. And especially with the new iPhone, what is it, 7 Plus, that has the 2 cameras. I think that's pretty wild.
That's pretty useful.
I wonder if it would work on that one. If it work on the, well, let's see. I'm looking at the page now.
I'm sure they're working on it.
They'll probably come out with one. Yeah.
I'm sure it'll come. It'll come soon.
Nice. What is this? An adapter lens with a 37 millimeter. What? Look at this, man. This is like cinematography. See, this is what I used to say last year, because we used to see, this looks great, by the way, and they're not that expensive either. I may pick one up.
No, they're not that bad. Yeah, they're not
$175, and depending on the quality. I want to see some of the examples of the quality. But I used to say, like, people putting all this rigging and cages and mounts on their phone. It was kind of like putting an Iron Man suit on it, It's like you have a little man inside and all this stuff hanging off a poor little iPhone. At some point, not with these, but at some point when you're doing all that stuff just to prove a point, you might want
I
to
never
just
did it.
get a real camera, and shoot that way instead of trying to, squeeze blood out of a rock here. But if you're running and gunning, and you have one of these little adapters in your little bag of goodies, and you can get that level of results. That's crazy that you can do that these days.
Yeah, I mean,
and these cameras are getting better
right?
and better and better.
Yeah. Yeah, you said it. The cameras are getting better, and if you really think about it, you just said it. Look at Martin, right? Martin's. You have what? You have a medium format camera in some part of your arsenal, right? Or no? Am I incorrect on that?
Only an old film one.
Okay.
But my 5DSR gives me higher resolution photos.
Oh, here we go. Yes, so exactly, right? But the point is, you see a lot of guys say that have a medium format system, and they also have a DSLR, and they also have a mirrorless camera, and this is just going one step further down that rabbit hole, where you sit there and say, hey, look, they're all tools that I can use differently, and if it comes down to it, I jokingly, if your client's budget is nil, and you can go, I'll shoot it on my iPhone with this, lens adapter and this DJI Osmo, and just you'll be fine. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's right. You could slap that thing on an Osmo and an Osmo Mobile and have anamorphic and stabilized. That's crazy.
The Osmo Mobile's great. I've got one.
You like it? I saw one in the Apple Store today. I was thinking about pulling the trigger on that.
Very, very nice.
Yeah,
I've seen someone, Alistair, I don't know if you know him from, he's actually in Ireland, or Scotland, sorry, but he works for Smug Mug over in San Francisco.
Oh, cool.
And when we were in Puerto Rico with RGG, he was showing me it in the van, like how it works. And dude, the technology behind it is wild. Like you can set it to the front camera and have it lock on a person's face. So he doesn't have to worry about anything. He just moves it around the car, and it just keeps panning.
And that works exceptionally well. I've done it. And it's not just a face, anything. You lock it on an object.
Right, anything.
You can
walk
around the room. It just locks on it. Very cool.
See, I may have to see. I'm chasing you now, Martin. You chase me with the Osmo, the Osmo Mobile. I may have to pull trigger on that one. That might be, my Secret Santa gift to me.
It's not very secret. Yeah, that reminds me. A few years ago, I was walking through Tokyo, and there was a white Prius went by with "secret police" written on the door. I'm like, how secret is that?
Classified.
That's too funny.
Nothing to see here. Look away.
Yeah. It will burn your eyes.
Oh man! All right, guys. Well, my pick is something old and new. I just want to share kind of what's going on in my world. So I've recently rediscovered Final Cut Pro. I was using Premiere most of the year. Final Cut, or Apple released Final Cut Pro 10.3, which I've been diving into, and it's beautiful. But my pick is not Final Cut. Final Cut is awesome. Definitely go check it out if you haven't. But my pick is actually LinkedIn Learning, which is formerly lynda.com. So, Lynda got acquired by LinkedIn, and as they kind of gobble up the library, they're pushing out, the newest videos as LinkedIn videos. And I've been getting up to speed on Final Cut Pro 10.3 using Lynda, my Lynda subscription, and it's amazing. I've gone through, I don't know how many hours of training, and they have it, obviously like Lynda does it, they have it all segmented into the different features. And I feel like I'm completely up to speed on what the software can do. Not that I'm a talented editor now or anything, but I feel much more comfortable using it. And I watched all of the tutorials that I watched on the Apple TV. So they have a Lynda or LinkedIn. I think it's still the lynda.com app. There's a lynda.com app for Apple TV. You log in with your regular subscription. You can sit back and watch Lynda tutorials on the big screen. And that's what I've been doing. So
nice. That's pretty cool.
It's rad. It's really cool. I think it's the best way to watch training, because the way my office is set up, you can see I have my Mac here and a little TV, a little cheap Sony TV off to the right there with an Apple TV plugged into it. So I can have the videos and training playing off there while I'm working and trying out the stuff that they're talking about right here. And it works really well. Nice. Yeah.
Hey, have either of you watched any of the masterclass.com things?
Yes. James Patterson, man. I own the James Patterson one, and I gifted God, which one was it? Usher. I gifted
Mm.
Usher to a friend of mine. You know, Usher teaches performing arts.
Ushers.
He's teaching performing
Oh,
arts.
okay.
Yeah, how to perform in front of a crowd. James
Makes sense.
Patterson teaching,
Yeah.
obviously, writing.
Because this is obviously, it's not photography centric, although I am still waiting for
It is photography centric. Andy Leibovitz has a training thing in
that's
there.
that's the one. Here we go. I'm just checking. Annie Leibovitz is this one's still like coming soon. It's been marked coming soon for like a year.
The anyone?
The Annie
Wow,
one, yeah.
really?
But there's some cool stuff on here: acting, singing. There's the Dead Mouse teaches electronic music.
I need to get that one.
Yeah.
James Ramsey teaches cooking.
They've definitely spent some coin on getting some pretty official people.
You know what's cool about that though?
Instructors.
Not only because of the name and the marketing, because I look at it from that perspective as well, but part of it was research because I want to see how they're doing this thing. And you get in there and like the James Patterson one, he's in there. He's like the Jose Rosado of writing, right? So he's in there like just telling it like it is. He's like, and it's shot really well. Like they're in coffee shops, and he's like, "You're his nephew.
Oh, that's neat.
You're his nephew," and he's
Yeah.
explaining to you how to be the best-selling author in the world. Like, "Oh, I just did this and this, and oh, be sure you do this." So, it's like
That is kind of neat.
yeah, instead of like, okay, a screen sharing and then someone in front of a whiteboard and it's very well done. It's warm and well produced and well put together. So
I think I've been waiting for the Annie Leibovitz one, but I think I'm gonna pre-enroll to the Dead Mouse one because the music.
I may get that one tonight too. Yeah, because I like that kind of music.
Cool.
From Chicago, house music, man.
It's the first thing I always think of. Oh, Chi-Town.
Yeah, that's right. All right, guys, we went a little bit over. It's always good talking to you guys. It's awesome.
When do we not go over? I don't know what it's like to ever go on time.
That's just what TWiP is. That's it's part of the beast. I try to make it short. There's no way to make a show like this short. It's just
it's been half TWiM this week anyway. This week in music.
It is This Week in Music. This week in it's always we should change the name to This Week in TWiP.
This week in everything.
Yep. TWiP. All right, Martin, what do you have coming up? When are you leaving? I know there's a trip coming up. There's always a trip coming up for you.
Yeah, I've got my first Hokkaido the landscape trip at the start of January, and we do still have a few places left for that. So if you're interested, mbp.ac/HLPA, the Hokkaido Landscape Photography Adventure.
Cool.
I'll put a link in the show notes or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
But after that, I've got my wildlife trips, and then Namibia in the middle of next year. Then Iceland. We've still got some Iceland. Everything else is full after the landscape trip until Iceland. I've still got some Iceland slots left, so that's in September. So yeah, but great. I'm looking forward to just getting kicked off with my. I love the feeling of walking off the warm bus into the snow, and you've got the snow hitting your face and it's crunching under your feet. I just love leading my tour off my group off those buses into the wild landscapes that we shoot.
One of these days, I want to go on your, you know what I'm going to say, right? The snow monkey trip.
Yeah. I
need to see those snow monkeys like hanging out with each other. It looks so cool.
It'd be great to go there together. I'll tell you what. Actually, I'm usually. I was going to say we could just bring you on one of the trips, but they're always sold out.
They're always full. Yeah. No, I would pay. I'm going to pay my way.
Oh no.
I'm not carrying luggage. I see what you're trying to do. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on, Martin. It's always a pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and Mr. Rosado, the angry millennial. What about you, man? What's coming up for you?
Some interesting things. Actually, in the talks with the guys from RGG about doing something over there.
Cool.
About all I can say about that. Yeah, not sure exactly what it's going to look like or anything like that, but it's going to be finally interesting to just not do something entirely on my own. So I'm excited about that possibility. Beyond that, we are still doing the Creatives Against Suppression thing. Mm-hmm. So always looking for people to submit articles, whether anonymous or with their name attached. We still have, Resource Magazine that's gonna be coming out soon. I don't think it came out yet, but it was their end of the year issue with a nice write-up about us in there. And we're gonna be doing the talks again come January and February when kids get back from school from break. And pretty much that.
Well, good, man. Well, thanks for coming on. Good to have this conversation is like it's like baking soda and vinegar, I guess. And what would I be in that mix? I don't know.
The bowl.
I'll be the bowl. Yeah.
Bowl.
I'm the bowl holding the baking soda and vinegar and bubbling up. Well, cool, guys. Thanks for coming on. And we are at the end of another episode of This Week in Photo. Remember, you can check out all of our shows, including this one, at thisweekinphoto.com. We've got a couple new shows that are popping up. We're relaunching The Fix with one of Jose's friends. Renee Robin is going to be hosting that show. She's already recording. I think she's already recorded like 3 episodes, and they're crushing it. Nice. And we also have Steve Brazel, who just launched his new show called Behind the Shot. It's an exploration of one photographer and one shot. So he goes into that shot and asks them, what was going on? Why did you do this thing? And how did you do it? And all that stuff. So yeah, it's actually really good. And Steve is a veteran broadcaster, so he has that that butterscotch voice thing going on.
Like Casey
for that. Yeah, I don't know if you know Frederick. Steve interviewed me for that, and when I first spoke to him, his voice is just like crazy. It's voice.
Yeah, he's like he sounds like a DJ. He's just like you're waiting on him to tell you what the traffic is in LA because it's
great voice.
Nice. He does. He not only does he have a great voice, he's a professional. He's been on the air for decades, right? So he has that pacing, and the polish that most of us podcasters lack. He has it. So
I think the only person that beats him on voice is a Barry X.
Barry X.
Barry X's voice.
There's different kinds of voice. Like a Barry X's voice makes you think. A Barry X makes me want to grab a bottle of wine or something and sit back in front of a fire, while I'm listening to him. Steve is like, I'm waiting on him to announce, I don't know, Anthrax playing the next song because that's what he does. He's a classic rock DJ.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, cool, guys. Well, that's the end of this episode, and you know what time it is. Jose, what time is it?
I mean, I was actually about to answer that, but it's time to take that lens cap off. I was about to say it's 10:15. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it, man. It's time to take that lens cap off.